to okay, we're live. Okay, welcome to the latest Security Ledger Hangout. We're here. We haven't done one of these. Just kind of just talking to a friend of Security Ledger, and we're here with Lance James, who's the head of cyber intelligence at Deloitte and Touche. And Lance is a noted expert in the cyber field. He's testified before Congress. He's on top of pretty much everything that's going on these days from his position. And so, Lance, hey, welcome to the Security Ledger, and thanks for joining us on this Hangout.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
So, you and I talked off and on pretty much, well, you know, if not every day, certainly every week. There's a lot. There's been a lot happening in the last few weeks, particularly in an area that I think is near and dear to your heart, which is information sharing between public entities and private entities, government and industry. This was a topic of the Cybersecurity Summit out at Stanford on Friday, and it's been in the news a lot. I'm really interested, just from your perch there at Deloitte, where things stand when it comes to companies sharing information on attacks with government, with each other, within industries. What's the state of the art right now, and what needs to be done?
Well, at first, I'd like to say, finally, so one of the biggest issues here is that information sharing. I think we've seen both the presidential administration been kind of voicing this for about the last year, given all the breaches that have occurred, given the conflicts both abroad and locally here. One of the big solutions that people have been saying and talking about is information sharing through basically cyber intelligence information sharing. Where we stand with it is it's interesting. So information sharing has actually been going on for quite a while within the small pocket of a community, what I would say the cyber IC, the cyber intelligence community, right? And this involves government agencies as well. Like, as a lot of people feel that there's going to be these problems with government agencies sharing or commercial entities not sharing because of competitive behavior. And the irony is actually, as this has bubbled up into the mainstream, it's gotten more tighter with the competitive, all those problems that everybody kind of predicts are going to happen, the commercial competitive behavior, the high side, basically the classified information coming across and gets classified and can't be shared with commercial entities, or all of these pieces. It's actually shown its face in the experienced information sharing community more applicably today than it has in the past. Like, for instance, NDAs have always been important, non-disclosure agreements within companies, and protecting that. But the more breaches that are going on, and you see certain companies, IR companies, that are working for the companies, they're protected and expected to keep those NDAs in place. So everybody's like, the biggest panic all we see this past year and last year is panic of, does anybody have any IOCs? Does anybody know anything about this, right? And the media and its portrayal of it. It's interesting to see the media's part in this. I mean, because in some ways the media is also part of bringing intelligence to play, right? Media is a form of intelligence, just as much as back in the day, businesses doing intelligence before it was cyber would be, mortgage lenders. That's a form of intelligence. They have enough information to understand, are you a risk or not, information like that. So the interesting play is all of the different parts. For instance, media has only such certain sections of information. Obviously, obviously it is common for people not to want to talk to media, or the last people to be wanting to talk to. But ironically, who's beating all the intelligence services out there is the media. They're the ones hearing about it first, right? So there's this kind of funny thing where it's like, it used to be a lot of the intelligence companies that you might not even have heard of at the time, because they weren't trying to make this big market splash.
Right.
And that's a topic we'll definitely discuss. But they weren't trying to make this market splash. They would be the ones coming out with this crazy, like, look what we've got, everything like that, and the media would follow. And the breaches today, we're seeing the information is coming out from the media first, and everybody's kind of following, trying to gather their stuff and look like they know what they're talking about immediately to all the consumers that are asking their customers. Now we also then have the government, right? So the definition of information sharing through the government and how they're going to play it is going to be very interesting, right? And mostly, I think the interesting play out is mostly based on agendas, right? So let's go into the definition of intelligence. You know, there's this process that basically starts with.
There are many different types of intelligence, Lance.
Correct, right? So we have business intelligence, we have commercial intelligence. I mean, we have the commerce's version of cyber intelligence, right? This is actually a big thread within our own team yesterday about what the heck is cyber intelligence to the rest of the world, right? Well, I may think I have a view, or I may think that my doctrines and my knowledge of threat intelligence or cyber intelligence may be right, but does the rest of the world understand what information sharing consists of, right? So, because you got to remember, the people that have been having the experience in the information sharing communities is a small amount of people, right? It is a small set. And when it gets larger, right, you open up a cyber intelligence agency of some sort, this Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center. Now you're moving massive portions of intelligence. There's tons of overlap. There's a lot of information that people are going to have or don't have. And then the decision of what is valuable to the receivers of the information, and what are they going to do with that information, and controlling the behavior and decisions of that information, right? So these aren't technological problems. These are actually human issues, right? Like, how do you make sure something doesn't get leaked, right? So, for instance, in the information security, information sharing world, we have what's for things that are, or for data that is not classified, we have what's called the traffic light protocol, right? Okay. And many people, I was doing a talk yesterday at OWASP, and as much as we've all been in information security, and all due to respect to them, the intelligence community's bridge into information security, many people don't know what traffic light protocol is, right? And I'll happily provide a link in a bit if you want, but it's on like the U.S. CERT site about rating confidentiality and sensitivity of information and how to handle that, right? So we have traffic light protocol red, which is everything. Say I dictated this conversation and we weren't live and it was a red conversation, it means that it stays between you and me. If we had multiple people on that email and it was labeled red, it only stays within that set of people. Mm-hmm. They cannot use the information outside of that to do anything with it. They can't communicate that information to anybody else without permission or from the original disseminator, right? So, mm-hmm. So when it's TLP.
Oh, you still with us, Lance?
Red, that's kind of like your equivalent to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but you're coming back. There you go. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. So, but where were we? Sorry.
So you were saying, so for example, red would be,
okay.
Can really constrain distribution of the information within a specific group.
Right, and then you have, for instance, amber, which is is within the group, but you can pass it on maybe to your teams or within your organization or that industry. So if it's on a mailing list and it's amber, it means that if you need to use this information to pass on to your teams, use proper judgment, and only send it out to the need to know. So that way they can take effect on their threat intelligence teams, can take action, but it's not public. Uh-huh. It's not publicly available. If we have a public feed, it's not going there, right? So and then you have TLP green, which is still not public, but it says that you can spread this industry-wide, right, or sector-wide, right? And then there's TLP white, which says is basically completely public, right?
Yep.
So these issues we've seen in our own experiences in information sharing have sometimes been leaked because the agenda of someone wanting to show that they have that information before somebody else does, right? And it's been upsetting to the community, and the information security community has a pretty strong vetting process, but it's not perfect, right?
Right.
So that becomes very interesting, because what do you do when you have to de-vet someone, or what they would call in the intelligence community burning someone, right? You're removing them from the intelligence community. Being human, there's a lot of opinions, of should we do that or not that, and it's almost like, do we need a committee to do these things? Do we need to, is it a big discussion, or is it that one person said they did something bad, so we're trusting that, So this is a very complicated process, and now that it's going to be this centralized concept that you have this overseeing agency, right, mm-hmm. saying send data to us, and we promise we'll send data to you. And obviously we've seen that. We've seen FBI flash reports are coming out. People, and DHS puts out their type of flash reports or CERT reports. we're seeing this happen. But even in those, some of the information, they're all kind of coming up with their own style of writing what they're going to be delivering. Now, there are protocols out there that are designed to hopefully standardize this. STIX, which is an expression protocol, designed by MITRE. And that's supposed to basically help us put, pretty much a scalable contextual standard or framework to actually storing the information we want to share, and that everybody can just be pushed off, and they can have automated systems that'll pick it up and be able to contextualize it and understand it, thus making it a lot easier for different structured format data to be centralized in one way to transport it. And so it's one transform with one transport.
Right, right. So easier sharing, easier kind of apples to apples sharing of data, and less massaging that needs to happen. So you bring up some good points. I mean, one of the, I think definitely one of the dynamics, and we saw this with Sony, as you said, is that events are often outpacing the ability of the intelligence community, the government, the security community to respond to them. We really saw that with Sony, where so much was coming out via social media, and either from employees of the company or from folks within Hollywood. I mean, it was Hollywood, that the truth got very muddy very quickly about what did and didn't happen. We still don't really know. The other is that, as I see it, one of the things that's really happened in the last 5 or 10 years is that the whole notion of threats and how to respond to them has moved from sort of, well, you have technology and then you block the attackers, and that's how you address this problem by not getting hacked, to more information-driven and intelligence-driven, understanding your adversary, understanding, being able to identify indicators of compromise. So it seems like there's more reliance that companies have on getting information from other companies than maybe was the sense 10 years ago, when people were like, well, I just got to buy the right box, and that way I won't end up being a victim. But what I think the big unanswered question is, what information is really useful to you as an organization from your peers or from the government that would actually be actionable for you on your security team or one of your customers? What type of information would actually be actionable?
Well, so it's kind of interesting on the concept of what indicators and observables are. So one of the things, and I'll step back from one of the first point you made was, from 10 years ago, we didn't have nearly as much malware, right? Yeah. Right. So 10 years ago, if you sent some IOCs, it was like, brilliant, wow, oh my gosh, we've never seen anything like this before. And you also had the process of teaching them how to do something with it, right? Now everybody's like, you have this expectation of definite, there's devices and technologies that will take information and IOCs and whether it's your proxies or your stored IDS systems or IPS systems or whatever it is, right? So it'll take those in and be readily start taking action on them, right? So we've gotten to the point we have now happy with IP, and I think still the slowdown is, people have they have automated malware analysis tools out there, but sometimes they need more information, right? But there's so much malware out there, right? Right. And then today also is that, like, the question is IPs and hashes and MD5s going to be enough for us? Right. Right. Like, so you're talking about are these IOCs what are we looking for, right? So we have at Deloitte, and not to promote, but just show the process that we do, right? In that is we have, for instance, we have an ops team, we have an operations team, threat analysis team, an investigation team, and a research team, right? And all of them have different objectives or missions, right? But in that, each one has different levels of IOCs that they would be doing, because when you think about it, they're just indicators, and the goal is to do analysis to come up with some actual more than information, and it actually becomes intelligence, right? So, and then that gets into the level of, like, some people do attribution work, meaning they're looking for, this is APT XYZ, right? And this is behind, this is maybe, a foreign nation state's military army division XYZ or 123, right? Avoiding naming specific ones or anything, but and the question is, people ask is, what good is that to me? And what kind of information can I do with that? And is it useful? And does it go back beyond that? So when you come down to observe, we want to get to the level of what's the motivation of this actor? What are their resources, right, that they use? What kind of tools do they have access to? What about their economics? You know, do they have a lot of money, a little money? Are they working with a lot to do, or do they have, you know, are they backed by, you know, a business that or funding that is actually, going to give them longevity or a lot of capabilities and flexibility? What's the timeliness? You know, how soon do they attack, and what you know, are they kind of low and slow? Are they fast and hard, right? Opportunistic versus not, right? These to me are actually the indicators, and that we want to, you know, to take these indicators and get to that level of answers, right? And those are the things that are going to give us the answers in the environment. So when someone, for instance, I come up and maybe, you know, do some attribution work, and I can break down the level of network infrastructure that maybe APT actor is doing, right? You know, a lot of people might not realize what that value is, but if I can do that, I know exactly possibly their next move, or I can start monitoring the domain spaces they're using for their C2s. I can add more. I can keep an eye on their infrastructure, and when you want to keep them out, you know, hey, this is what I would be looking for. This is how I would prevent this, and preemptively, I'd start putting this information or this policy in play, or this defense doctrine in play against this type of threat actor. What we forget about, though, is that we've gone straight to threat intelligence and accepted IOCs, and we don't apply the threat model. You know, the threat modeling that we learned years ago. Information secrets actors, right? You know, what's the information? What are the secrets I'm guarding, and where are they, and how are they handled, and what actors are involved? When you get actor information, you need to go back to your threat models and apply that into that and say, okay, this is a new thing. Do we need to redesign or relook at our threat model? And that's how you properly make the decisions on actually how to operate controls into your environment and use it. Right now, everybody's kind of reacting. They're taking these IOCs and they're in their SOC, and they're going, all they do is take their operational risk team, given to you, whether it's IOCs, actor profiles, attribution information, all the way even legal information, things that you can do legally to keep these people out, or even go down to where the government would play, law enforcement, you know, possibly. These things need to be starting to be putting in these models that are beyond, because right now everybody's just offering threat intelligence, but there's no integration on the other side that says, what are we going to do with these correctly, and how do we actually make the best move of it? And I don't think that's a complete cyber intelligence profile or a cyber intelligence offering unless you are actually looking at how to complete the full circle. And if you look at how intelligence is played out, it starts with direction and planning, which comes with your threat models, right? Collection, everybody's doing that. Processing, most people are doing that. Analysis, I'd say some people are doing that appropriately. Dissemination, which we've already discussed. This is a hard problem. Who do you disseminate to? How can you disseminate? What if it's restricted data? Blah blah. You know, and so on and so on. And then we have feedback, which is one of the very much ignored pieces, and actually how to make a decision. So once we get this stuff to you, do you want to threat feed and never hear from us again? Because threat feeds aren't threat intelligence, they're just information. Or do you need to turn it into contextual analysis and turn it into intelligence that allows your operations teams to take action and start over time building a model around their, you know, their defense systems, their defense. Okay, where does come in, right? And so that's why what we try to look at is, do we know what groups or actors, or what kind of, like, we start at like the motivator level, like, you know, is it a, you know, is this type of actor and this type of attack, right? And will your threat model withstand this? Would you be able to, if we simulated this attack on you, would you be able to withstand this? And you can build those based on the cyber intelligence that's already existing out there, the IOCs. If you want to test for POS malware in your environment, would you be vulnerable? You can emulate and simulate those attacks, because we have enough information to see what TTPs were used and what kind of activity, and what in the kill chain, how that would have to be conducted, right? So The problem is I find that cyber intelligence is constantly trying to be this real-time action, and we got to just respond, and we need to get back to being ahead of the threat, in front of this threat, by applying it back to the defense doctrine we originally thought back a bit in the 90s and early 2000s, when we didn't know about people getting going after the human, and they were going mostly after, you just have to guard the firewall, IDS logs, or we did this. We need to apply that back into our organizations, and that's when information, and we're going to take this back to information sharing. This is when it's going to be powerful, right? Is the question that is always said is, why are you buying this threat intelligence? Do you know why you're buying this threat intelligence? If you ask that question, most people really don't know. They just say, I need threat intelligence because they say, I'm not getting enough information.
Right.
But they don't have a plan on what they're going to do with it. They don't always know what's going on, and they don't have a integrated support system on the operations side to actually start putting it back into the model that they built from the start and applying overall intelligence. The government has done this well for years, and we're talking not even cyber. We're talking use of intelligence to families had fewer and fewer, attacks, God willing, and God bless on that. But basically, we had fewer and fewer attacks because we've upped the use of how we use intelligence. We improved that model by saying, okay, we've had mistakes along the way. We didn't see certain things, and then we move forward and say we're going to use intelligence to continually protect our country. But they do it internally inside, and they're actually using way more than just this response. We see this. We see this. They have mastered this framework. It's a program. It's an intelligence program and process that allows them to basically utilize it to make sure that they can facilitate the protection of our country. For instance, we may call it in our organizations an operational risk team or something, but to them, maybe it's law enforcement going to arrest a suspect that they picked up intelligence on. Make a move actorically in our own organizations. And if we're going to do information sharing, let's mostly prep what information we're going to need and why do we need it, and why are we have we done the economic valuation on this?
So and this might have to be our last question. So one of the announcements that's come out of the Obama administration in recent weeks is this cyber intelligence coordination center at the federal level. This would be kind of a new creation, a new layer on top of the cyber intelligence centers that are already there. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any particular insight into how that's going to work or what problem it's going to solve? I think we understand, because there was some good coverage on sort of the origins of it, and I think the Sony hack in some way really hastened the creation of that. I have heard some people say, do we need this? Weren't we doing this with DHS already? And is there this need? The government's kind of knee-jerk reaction is often to just create more bureaucracy. Is that what's happening here with this cyber intelligence coordination center along the lines of the ones that were set up in the wake of 9/11?
Well, okay, so we've seen a few along the way, but some of them were done through nonprofits. Like examples is Pittsburgh's NCFTA back in 2002, which was originally kind of an FBI plus nonprofit plus industry, and now it's obviously a bunch of different government agencies sharing information on cybercrime, right? But on the other hand, reaction, for instance, 9/11. We're creating a question is, has DHS worked, right? A bureaucracy or not, it seems pretty successful, and so the same is going to give. Right now, we know who to report this to, right? It's not. Do we talk to FBI? Do we talk to ECTF? Do we talk to NCFTA? What's the process, right? It's going to finally set, okay, so we've all had this expectation of information sharing, but no national security agenda on it. So we haven't known what the rules are. What's the rules of engagement? I think this will give a chance to set the rules of engagement for industry and government collaboration sharing, also academia and such. I think there's going to be several complications across this, but I think I'm going to have to say that if you look at like the joint publications, the DoD joint publications on there's JP 102 on like definitions of intelligence, cyberspace, all these things. I think one of the things that we have to say is the government has been doing intelligence for years and they're good at it, right? And I think that, you know, this may help us structure a definition of intelligence on the commercial side, because the commercial side has a separate agenda. I mean, we all have to make money, and we all service our clients, and we do all the right things for them, right? But at the same time, some of this stuff has been gotten kind of out of hand. I mean, the marketing hype and all the things that are going on, and we've seen this kind of, been pretty a bit of a circus, if you might say, and it's not on purpose. No one's bad or good on this. It's just kind of what had happened, and now here we are, right? So I think this is an attempt to kind of centralize that circus a little bit, define a framework, right? And kind of put, like, for instance, I believe that in commercial intelligence, the commerce side, the industry side, we got to realize intelligence isn't a game, right? It's not a game. It is not something you just sell or exploit, or another startup comes out and offers something new and thinks it because they got on the bandwagon. At some point, this may actually help regulate, right, how we do this properly and why we're doing it, and check our motivations of what we're doing, right? An example is, if it was physical security, you don't see industry building battleships and going out in the water and defending companies with their battle nation and stuff. So it's interesting that we're doing this with intelligence, and so I think this is kind of a stance of finally the government saying, yes, we're involved. We're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna all figure this out together. I'm not thinking it's government. I don't mean to speak politically, but what I mean is I'm not saying government's gonna put their hands too much in it, but they may give us a guiding point, which I think could be a very good opportunity for everybody involved in working in both in the industry, the public, and the private sector. I think so.
Right, and I think one of the things you saw come out of that Sony hack was this sense of, certainly at the official level, like, this is a mess. It's a cacophony. I'm hearing things from, obviously within the government, but then these private sector sources and Norse Corporation and Mandiant, and everybody's got a dog in this fight, and the result is we have no idea what really happened. So yeah, you can certainly see the conclusion from that being like, listen, we need one line. We need one.
We need less speculation and more frameworks and guidance. I mean, that's really comes out. We need facts, and be it all the breaches I've seen have had a similar tale of people and their opinions and this and that, and most of it's just opinions off of the media, right? And the irony of that is I don't even need to get into.
You're talking to a member of the media, so yeah.
Yeah, sure. But I think finally, we need a beacon, a line of sight that we can kind of floor this into. And I think the good thing is, I think that the administration, the presidential administration, is welcoming the industry into insights into how to do this too. I don't think they're going to come in and just say we're going to do this way all the way, because there's going to be some quirks to work out working with that line between industry, academia, and government in general. So.
Great. Hey, Lance James, Head of Cyber Intelligence at Deloitte & Touche, thank you so much for coming on, talking to us here on the Security Ledger. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Let's do it again, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, for sure. Sure.
All right, cool.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks very much, Lance, and we'll see you back here again.
All right, for sure.
All right.